I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
The 44th president, America's first black president, takes the oath of office.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And the peaceful transfer of power is made. So many people, so many emotions, so much history.
From ABC News, this is a special edition of World News with Charles Gibson. Brought to you with limited commercials by Audi. Progress is beautiful. Here now, Charles Gibson.
Good evening. It took just seconds, 28 remarkable seconds, for America to be transformed. In that time, the time it took to recite the oath of office, Barack Obama became our first African-American president. In that time, his predecessor reverted to the role of private citizen. In that time, an entire government peacefully changed its face and its focus. And all of it rooted in a tradition established when George Washington took the oath 220 years ago. But those few seconds are so precious, so treasured, that millions of people across the country stopped what they were doing to watch or to listen. And hundreds of thousands more, some traveling thousands of miles, braved the cold, standing shoulder to shoulder for hours, surrounded by total strangers, so they could say, I saw it, and I was there. They started before dawn, hundreds of thousands streaming toward the mall to stake out a place to witness history.
And so now I see an American that's without color.
And the masses kept coming in numbers never before seen in Washington. The Metro, Washington's underground, was strained to capacity with lines circling the stations. And at 9:16 in the morning, the U.S. Park Police had to close them all because it was full. At 10 a.m., the Obamas joined the Bushes at the White House for a farewell coffee, Michelle Obama giving the outgoing First Lady an engraved pen and journal for her memoirs. As the president and president-elect made their way up Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol, the who's who of American politics were finding their seats on the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen.
By now, close to 1.5 million people, bundled against the cold, were waiting for the moment. The largest crowd ever to come to an inauguration. Malia and Sasha Obama found their front row seats to history, soon joined by their mother, while their father gathered his final thoughts inside the Capitol.
The President-elect of the United States, Barack H. Obama.
I come treated of thee.
The new vice president took his oath first.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
And finally, the peaceful transfer of power. Mrs. Obama holding the Lincoln Bible for her husband.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
But Chief Justice John Roberts and the president never quite got in sync.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And then the much-anticipated inaugural address, in which the president talked about the challenges America faces and the responsibility of all Americans to meet them.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met. What is required of us now is a new era of responsibility, a recognition on the part of every American that we have duties to ourselves, our nation, and the world. Duties that we do not grudgingly accept, but rather seize gladly, firm in the knowledge that there is nothing so satisfying to the spirit, so defining of our character, than giving our all to a difficult task.
And for our enemies, he had these words.
We will not apologize for our way of life, nor will we waver in its defense. And for those who seek to advance their aims by inducing terror and slaughtering innocents, we say to you now that our spirit is stronger and cannot be broken. You cannot outlast us, and we will defeat you. To those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, Know that you are on the wrong side of history, but that we will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist. Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end, that we did not turn back, nor did we falter. And with eyes fixed on the horizon and God's grace upon us, we carried forth that great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to future generations. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
The Reverend Joseph E. Lowry, the legendary civil rights leader, delivered the benediction.
We ask you to help us work for that day when black will not be asked to get back, when brown can stick around, when yellow will be mellow, when the red man can get ahead, man, and when white will embrace what is right. Let all those who do justice and love mercy say amen.
Oh, say can you see?
As hundreds of thousands on the Mall savored what they had just seen.
This is my first official act.
Then the president went inside to a signing ceremony.
Let us pray.
And on to the inauguration lunch in Statuary Hall, where the All-American Feast was inspired by Abraham Lincoln. As the new president celebrated his inauguration, the outgoing president was making his way to private life. On then to the celebration and the inaugural parade, where there were a lot of empty seats, ticketed seats. Security so tight people couldn't get to them, or they were so cold they just went home. As usual, and of concern to the Secret Service, the president and first lady got out of their limousine twice to walk portions of the parade route. And then the inaugural parade, 13,000 participants. The parade going long well after dark. And George Stephanopoulos, the host of This Week, has been with us all day, joins us again. As you listened to the speech, several things struck you, I know. What struck me was how specific he was to the problems of the day, but still enunciating the broad themes that underlie this nation.
Responsibility is one of the big ones. He talked about a season of service and how all of us have gotten here where we are today because of the sacrifices our predecessors have made. But what really got me, Charlie, is that this was a very bracing speech. It was almost as if this very young president was grabbing the country by the shoulders and saying, wake up. We've got a lot of work to do. Look at the scripture he chose to quote, St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and he said, the time has come to set aside childish things. He did not shrink at all from the problems the country is facing now. He said we can get through them if we stay true to our best traditions, but he didn't offer any false hope.
Sitting right behind him, the outgoing President Bush, many references in that speech that were very tough on him.
It's been a very gracious transition, but this was a very, very tough speech. He talked about how we had to end the era of standing pat, of protecting narrow interests. It was a repudiation of the time of President Bush. He even said we have to lead again in the world once again, saying this has not been a time of U.S. leadership in the world.
We were all so struck by that shot of 1.5 million people with flags and the enthusiasm that was out there, even as he delivered, as you say, a speech that really calls on all of us for some tough times. This was a joyous day, but also underscored by concerns about Senator Edward Kennedy, who at that luncheon where we saw the beginning of that luncheon, he suffered a seizure.
It was a scary several minutes inside that room, Charlie. From everything I heard from people who were there, Senator Kennedy had seizures, went into convulsions. He was sitting next to Senator Kerry, and Senator Kerry and his wife, Vicki, actually had to hold him through the seizures, which went more than a minute. He had to be taken from the room. President Obama went out to visit him. There were a scary few moments, but by the time he was taken from the Capitol, he was awake, joking with his best friend, Chris Dodd, and all the reports we're getting from the hospital right now is that he's going to be okay. It was just simply, he was overcome by fatigue and probably by all the excitement of the moment.
There was a lot going on today, and he was out there for quite some period of time. All right, George Stephanopoulos, as everyone knows, he's facing brain cancer. The seizure, obviously, a scary moment. Well before sunrise, it was clear that this crowd today in Washington and on the Mall would be enormous. There's no such thing as an official estimate, but unofficially, authorities believe nearly 1.5 million people crowded the Mall to witness the ceremony, another 400,000 packing the side streets, the largest crowd for any inauguration. Remarkably, there was not a single arrest reported related to the inauguration, and Bill Weir spent the day in the midst of the crowds.
Well, Charlie, we know that wind can make a cold day feel colder, but can national pride make a freezing day feel warmer. It seems to be the case, because regardless of the final crowd number estimates, never have so many people shivered so long with such joy. From above, even the seagulls must have been awed by the blanket of humanity. But the picture's equally moving down low. You can count the threads, every color and class woven together as Americans, and mixed throughout a few who wish they were.
I'm really actually jealous of the U.S. right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no other country in the world that can do this.
They arrived at dawn, some still bleary-eyed from the road trips that brought them from every corner of the nation. So you drove straight through, or?
Yeah, we drove straight through, about an 8-hour trip through the snow and everything. And
why?
Why? Look at this. Why would you want to be here? This is amazing. This is history. It's one of the most amazing events I'll ever see in my lifetime. And I want to be able to tell my kids about it.
When a Maryland bus failed to show, Kim Bateman shared a cab with 3 other stranded pilgrims. You're complete strangers.
Not anymore.
They took off work, pulled kids from school, and pointing frozen noses at the Capitol, staked out their spots in furs and Cookie Monster blankets and funny Ecuadorian hats. And when 6 layers fails to warm the blood, there's always the hokey pokey. But Mabel Hemphill used a different kind of insulation. Pictures of her late grandparents, sharecroppers who could not have imagined this day. She came for them, while Beverly Capers and Janice Ingram came for the man of the hour.
I came to really give support to our 44th president, Barack Obama.
2 minutes after noon, anticipation turned to celebration. Describe the feeling, describe the emotion.
It's unbelievable, man. It's just unbelievable.
It's official now.
Great country, man. It's a great country, man. It's unbelievable. It's a great country.
What did you think?
Well, it's just a miracle. It's great. This is the best thing ever. It's worth standing here and freezing.
After the drums and dancing faded, some drifted to the other end of the mall, Lincoln Memorial.
I have a dream.
Where Martin Luther King shared his dream nearly a half-century ago.
He stood right over there. Over there on the grassy where the trees are.
Reginald Green and Joan Mulholland were here that day too. And as members of the Freedom Riders, they were jailed during the civil rights struggle. Today brought a flood of memories and so much more.
It was just joyous, just joyous.
I automatically went back to Martin's speech in Memphis. I've been to the mountaintop. I've viewed the promised land. I may not get there with you, but you as a people will get there.
Through their smiles, plenty of people acknowledged to me the heavy lifting their new president now faces. But for tonight, at least, reason to party. And for a lifetime, Charlie, the right to say, I was there.
Bill, we are reporting from the mall today, but using the Lincoln Memorial as his backdrop there as he talks to us live. In between taking the oath of office and reviewing the parade, the new president actually took care of some official business. And tomorrow he has a full schedule, not much time to soak up the glow of today's pageantry. Jake Tapper is our new chief White House correspondent, and he's at his post on the White House lawn tonight. Jake?
Good evening, Charlie. Well, this morning, President Obama assumed control of this country's nuclear codes, and this afternoon, his administration issued a memo telling all departments and agencies to halt implementation of all pending rules and regulations from the Bush administration. There is going to be no time off for this president. Within minutes of taking the oath of office, President Obama was putting pen to paper.
Well, we are signing the National Day of Renewal and Reconciliation of 2009. This is my first official act. I'm a lefty. Get used to it.
That was the first of 3 presidential orders. He almost forgot to sign the other 2, formally nominating cabinet and sub-cabinet officials.
I was told not to swipe the pen.
Two more, don't forget.
2 more? Okay. That's true. I guess I have to have a cabinet, don't I?
You need it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Shortly thereafter, the Senate confirmed 7 of President Obama's nominees. One Republican senator, however, blocked Hillary Clinton from being confirmed as Secretary of State, wanting more debate about the transparency of the funding of her husband's foundation. President Obama making his way to the White House for his first visit as president. He's 2 cars behind me, and yet his staffers are already there, hard at work, getting ready to run the country. Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, Senior Advisor David Axelrod, Press Secretary Robert Gibbs, and others arrived here around 2 p.m. The smell of fresh paint in the air, Gibbs said that unlike the last transition in 2001, when Clinton staffers ripped W's from the keyboards, no O's were missing today.
All the keys are intact. It's just, I don't know the code to get in.
Press secretaries leave notes of advice for one another here in a flak jacket that's been handed down since the Ford years.
Dana showed me where it was and told me to read it early, but I have not had a chance to do that yet.
A lot of difficult decisions await this team.
Somebody lock this door behind us.
Tomorrow, we anticipate President Obama will institute some executive orders, including one that will likely shut down the detainee camp at Guantanamo Bay. Again, Charlie, there is going to be no time off for this president. Charlie?
All right, Jake Tapper reporting from the White House lawn. And still ahead on this special edition of World News, how Americans across the country shared in the moment, from classrooms to airline cabins, taking it all in on TV. Thousands of miles away in Africa, pride and joy in President Obama's ancestral land. And before he was president, what candidate Obama told us about his quest for the White House. As we mentioned, the crowd on the Mall was somewhere close to 1.5 million people packing the city of Washington for the inauguration, but tens of millions more around the country were watching the day's events on television, in schools, in offices, and stores. People stopped what they were doing to take in the moment. Here's Dan Harris.
No matter where they were, no matter what they were doing, millions of Americans felt compelled today to experience history. They watched in public places, Times Square, downtown Chicago, and Philadelphia. They watched on college campuses where some students use cell phones, in movie theaters, and in neighborhood bars.
Congratulations.
Young children watched in elementary schools from Buffalo, New York to Barack Obama's alma mater in Honolulu. And just as the dignitaries made their entrance in Washington, the 8th graders at the Winthrop School in New York City filed into the auditorium all dressed up, each class representing a different branch of government.
Vice President-elect Joe Biden and President-elect Obama.
When the real Obama appeared on screen, an even bigger eruption. Other Americans watched in more intimate settings today, in a family living room in Woolstock, Iowa, on a JetBlue flight from New York to Orlando. Many businesses decided to throw viewing parties. At scanmyphotos.com in Irvine, California, the men seemed more emotional than the women. There was emotion all over the country today, particularly at this moment.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
Which triggered tears and cheers from Memphis to Chicago to Harlem to the auditorium of the Winthrop School. The kids in this room were going wild.
Yes.
When he first showed up on screen, people were screaming. Why is that?
Because he's such a good person, his intelligence, because he's black, and he's the first black president.
How did it make you feel about America?
It made me feel that now I actually have a chance to do anything and become a better person.
He makes me believe that I could be anything since he made it this far, so that means that I could be anything if I just put my head into it.
When the ceremony was over, the kids at Winthrop School had their own inaugural ball, dancing into a future that they say all of a sudden feels different. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
And nowhere were people watching more intently than in the Obama Ancestral Village in Kenya. And we will go there when World News continues in just 45 seconds. It wasn't only American eyes that were on Washington today. The world was watching as well. From the Mideast to Europe, Latin America to the Far East, almost universally, people around the world expressed the same sense of hope that Americans did today. And of course, the place the president's father left to come to America joined in the celebration. ABC's Ron Claiborne spent this inauguration day in the family's hometown in Kenya.
It was a festive,
joyful day in Cogello. Hundreds of people came, many on foot, one on a camel, to the athletic field at the Senator Obama School. Edward Murage traveled from Nairobi, 300 miles away, to see the son of a Kenyan become the American president.
Obama is the hero. Obama is the king of the day, and we are very happy.
As night fell, the crowd gathered around two large-screen televisions. They grew silent, even solemn.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
There was applause, but it was mostly restrained. The emotion of the moment, the awe, was etched into their faces. How do you feel right now?
Right now, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
In the U.S., Barack Obama is known as the first African-American president, but in Africa, and especially Cogello, his father's home village, he is known by many as the first African-American president.
Probably music will be there because...
To many young Kenyans, including 17-year-old Collins Ochieng, President Obama is an inspiring, almost mythic figure. Collins lives with his mother in this mud hut with no electricity. He hopes to be a lawyer.
Yes, I can. That one was his. But mine now will be, yes, I can do it.
What is yes, I can in the Luo language?
Yes, I can in the Luo language and Anyalotim.
We did not turn back, nor did we falter.
Today, when Barack Obama spoke to the people of Kenya and Cogello, they heard him. Ron Claiborne, ABC News, Cogello.
And coming up, Barack Obama looks inward at what prepared him for this historic day when World News coverage of the presidential inauguration continues in a minute and a half. President Obama's inaugural address totaled 2,401 words, 2,401 words to begin charting the course for the next 4 years. But over the past 2 years, he has spoken countless words on the campaign trail. Tonight, a look back at some of what he told us during our interviews about the people and events that helped shape him. Here now, America's 44th president in his own words.
My mother was the sweetest soul I've ever known. And I think the capacity to see the world through somebody else's eyes or stand in their shoes is what she gave to me in great abundance. And I think that capacity is what's needed right now in this moment. Those values reasserted themselves once I was through my teenage years, and it allowed me, I think, to harness some of the ambitions that arrive out of not having a father in the house. Somebody said, every man is either trying to live up to his father's expectations or make up for his father's mistakes. And, you know, in some ways, I'm probably doing both. My childhood was, I think, as full of difficulty, but also as full of joy as most people's childhoods. And so I look at it in some ways an enormously privileged childhood because I got to see the world at a very early age and see different cultures, speak different language, have adventures that, you know, most people don't have throughout their lives. What is quintessentially American is all these different threads coming together to make a single quilt. And I feel very much like I'm one of those threads that belong in this quilt, that I'm a product of all these different forces, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, that somehow all this amalgam is part of who I am. I think if you don't have enough self-awareness to see the element of megalomania involved in thinking you can be president, then you probably shouldn't be president. There's a slight madness to thinking that you should be the leader of the free world.
And now he is indeed the leader of the free world. That's World News for this Tuesday. Stay tuned for our coverage of the neighborhood ball. It's coming up next, and there will be more later on Nightline. I'm Charlie Gibson. Hope you had a good day. For all of us at ABC News, have a good night.